Sometimes I speak too fast and people do not understand me, especially if I am in an emotional stage. Hello and welcome to Communication, Psychology and HR. My name is Gerhard, and I'm a psychologist from Hamburg, Germany. Here in the Republic of Moldova, I'm specialized in international, intercultural and multilanguage contexts. During my weekly seminars, I always collect questions from the audience. And this was a question from this week. So there are many things we can answer here. First, in communication, almost everything is relative. Also, the speed we talk. For example, for some listeners, it's better if the speaker is faster. For somebody else, slower. It depends on the topic. If it's a lecture on mathematics, probably the audience prefers a very slow style. But if it's a football game and it's a commentary, then we want to have it very fast. Also, we often do not adequately assess our own performance. For example, I often am afraid of speaking too fast, but most often I get negative feedback for speaking too slowly. So it would be good if you somehow get objective feedback, for example, by recording yourself, listening to recordings, comparing them. Maybe the speed itself is not the issue. And also the understanding. So you need somehow to check how much of what you say really reaches the audience, and maybe your perception is not adequate. Most often our perception is not adequate, so that's very important. Now, there are different reasons why we may speak too fast. One, it's a bit controversial, of course, that speed is correlated to perceived social status. So people in a powerful position tend to speak more slowly, whereas people with lower status speak faster. So a trigger alarm, if I name some international politicians, it doesn't matter if you like them or not, but if you look how so-called world leaders speak, like Vladimir Putin or Donald Trump or other presidents, they typically speak quite slowly. And why is this so? It can also be because they don't accept to be interrupted. They know they are in a position where nobody should dare to interrupt them. So they can take their time and speak in a more measured way. The same applies for authorities in other fields, like famous scientists, musicians, people giving interviews, famous authors. You probably will see that the more famous the author, the more slowly he will speak, and the other way around too. Now, there's also another reason, and if we talk here about social status, and it may be, also this may not be adequately perceived. Maybe you perceive that you have such a low status that you need to speak so quickly nobody interrupts you. But in reality, in the perceptions of your colleagues, you actually have enough status. So you could allow yourself to speak more slowly than you actually do. Now, another explanation can be that you have not made up your mind what you actually want to say. So you have not established clear priorities, what your main message is. And therefore, you try to say as much as possible to not lose any one of your thoughts. So if you are better prepared, you can afford eliminating unnecessary words and focus on the important message. And also, a third reason may be that we are somehow uncomfortable with silence. People are comfortable with silence in different degrees. It depends also on the culture. Turn taking is the phenomenon when another person takes over the conversation. The speaking roles change. And there are cultures where in turn taking you need to leave some seconds of a pause. I understood in some American Indian cultures, for example, so after somebody speaks, you take a break and then say something. And in other cultures, maybe in Latino cultures, there is an overlap, so people they don't take a pause, but they even start speaking while the other person is still finishing their thought, and that is perfectly acceptable in those cultures. So, but sometimes we are also a bit uncomfortable with silence because we may be perceived as incompetent, hesitant, insecure, or silence also may make us aware of our internal reality. So as long as we are constantly producing sounds, we never turn inwards. But that's a typical problem of people starting some religious practice, be it meditation or sitting contemplation. Then they are aware that there are lots of things going on inside they were not aware of. So sometimes people who always speak fast, they want to create enough noise to not hear that. But yeah, these are some ideas. What are your opinions on that? In general, make recordings of yourself when legally possible with other people, or speak alone, or record your side of a telephone conversation. And maybe you will see that the speed as such is maybe not the main problem. For example, also with me, when people criticize me for speaking too slowly, it's not the speed, but it's, for example, the monotonous voice. I make no clear accents. I don't emphasize parts of the sentence clearly enough. So, and also here, maybe it's not the problem of speaking fast, but you should vary other aspects of your speech. I wish you a successful week. We meet next week. I wish you much success. If you have questions, comments, please leave them here. Bye bye.